Dr. Safdar Suhail is joining us online. Dr. Safdar Suhail is the Executive Director of Social Protection Resource Center. He has also served as Special Secretary to Cabinet Division, Government of Pakistan, dealing with matters of accountability, parliamentary affairs, and development. Belonging to the Commerce and Trade Services, he has supported and contributed policy formulation and research while also leading diplomatic efforts in trade. He volunteers his time for the joint initiative of Ministries of Health and Human Rights to make Islamabad Capital Territory a better place to live for the persons with disability as well as the elderly. Dr. Safdar Suhail, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Safdar will enlighten us on the topic human civilizations from ethnocentrism to inclusive social political structures. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, the moderator, and I must start by thanking IPF for organizing this event and thank also the partners from Karachi and from Poland. With Poland, my first introduction was in 1992 when I was doing my PhD in sociology from France, and I traveled from Paris to Moscow via Warsaw. And could see the transition happening. Then I was Pakistan's economic minister to EU in Brussels, and there, both in Warsaw and Katowice, I attended sessions which made me aware of the developments that Poland had witnessed over the past many decades, and particularly the vitality of Polish policy community and academia. I am also aware of the efforts being done in Poland on what is called Christian economics. So I've been watching these developments, and when I was invited by IPS to participate in this conference on a very important topic, I happily and instantly agreed to it because this is a topic which is extremely important in the contemporary world and for the future of humanity, and speaking of Pakistan, a future for Pakistan also. Now, the word civilization has been used in the title, in the abstract, and the general message that one gets is that the word community, the major countries of the world find themselves in one such stage that is marked by a major strategic, geo-economic changes. And there are new powers emerging. There are new powers who prefer to present themselves as civilizations. They are staking their claims, one could say, to be also called a civilization which could contribute to the human welfare. We all know that inter-civilizational encounters historically have brought a lot of good also, problems also, but good also. So in that context, I look at the situation these days as a situation where the Western civilization, Western power, globalization is not only being challenged by newly emerging powers, this so-called polycentric world, but there is a strong internal critique also of the Western civilization and globalization. So that has created a lot of space for such discussion that a civilization which was strong and which contributed a lot to the development of humanity. What kind of problems is it confronting? Because it's important to it's important for us to understand in the sense, and I'm going to talk more about that, that Pakistan, India, China, the three countries that I'm going to focus on, have had a massive exposure to the West, either in the form of direct colonialism or indirect colonialism, as was the case with China. Now, the critique on the internal critique on the Western civilization is at least 100 years old, starting with Spengler. But I would refer more to two major trends that we see these days. One is the trend of degrowth, which is self-explanatory, that the key tenet of Western civilization, you can say, which was the maximization of profit, is being challenged there. And the limits of capitalism, one can say, again, a foundation stone of the Western civilization, limited by ecological justice. And then the inward looking realities of the West in the form of homeland economics by US, for example. But I think the most, at least what I like more, is the critique by Piketty, Thomas Piketty, on the system of governance that the West has given to the whole world, which is being followed here also in Pakistan. The neoliberal system of governance, that is wealth inequality. Now, wealth inequality, the problem that wealth inequality is producing have been explained by Piketty in two of his major books. And the major insight that I derive from him is that it is not, the human welfare is not about the economic policies. It is about politics. So having said that, now what kind of legacy West has left in our countries? So in order to make a comment on the civilizational condition in China, India, and Pakistan, I have, while preparing my talk, I have studied many theories of civilization, so to speak. We all know Fukuyama, Huntington, Spengler, Toynbee, etc. But I could find only one theory of civilization which has the interstate relationship as a normative constituent of the theory. There is one such intellectual who makes it as a condition that you cannot call an area. You see the other features of civilization, that it should be a big area, a lot of people, economic progress for a long time, progress of art and culture and architecture, stability. I'm referring to Shah Waliullah Dehlvi of Indian subcontinent, an 18th century intellectual, who said that the capacity of internal social development on the one hand, and the capacity to have peaceful interstate relationships are the hallmarks of any civilization worth its name. So I'll repeat that his theory says that social development within the society and the capacity of the government to hold peaceful interstate relationships make a civilization worth its name. Now, the way Shah Waliullah explains his theory is that he asserts that any civilization status of society should be judged from the level of social development which is there in that country or society, one can say. So there he divides these levels from simple ones, that is the first stage. He calls it technically ittifaqat. We can conveniently translate it in English in levels of socio-economic development. So the first stage is a family, where the individual live in small groups and bothered more about residence. They have marriage, they come across weather and protect themselves. Now, this is more or less like other natural beings, like even animals who live together. The second stage is that of the uh, society, where now you have preoccupation with the morals, which should be adopted in daily collective social, mutual cooperation, mutual exchange. And the third stage is that of the state, where you have social solidarity by protecting the morality. The state is able to have penalties. There is a political system, there is a system for external security, and there are palpable achievements for public welfare. The fourth and final stage of such a society is the interstate, international state, uh, where the nature and kind of relation that exist among citizens of different countries would tell us about the nature of that state. Now, using this framework of Shah Waliullah, I personally think that the states that we are concerned with here, that is China, India, and Pakistan, are the states between stage number 2 and 3. China, one can say more in the stage number 4, and the restraint that Chinese are showing in interstate relationships also suggests that China is now almost on the 4th stage, and their internal social development is also more homogeneous. Wealth inequality is not much. The rule of law is very much there. So one can see that China perhaps qualifies for the stage 4, where they have a good quality governance and internal social development, and a desire and perhaps a capacity for stable interstate relationships. Now, that is not the case with India. If we compare with China or even otherwise, I need not comment in detail. The people who follow India, if they study the analyses of the election results of the recent elections 2024, which were announced on 4th of June, where they say that Modi has lost and India has won, but India has won potentially. Would India be able to move ahead with having a social harmony within the country, and its neighbors would start feeling that they are able to have stable interstate relationships? So there, in my own assessment, India is between stage number 2 and 3, and they are struggling on that. Belonging to an ancient civilization and putting a claim on that is one thing, but I was horrified to read a comment by a very serious analyst, who said that the establishment of the Ram Mandir on the site of the demolished Babi Masjid is a civilizational moment. So if we put this in perspective, I think we can clearly draw this conclusion that things are not that good. Now, coming back to Pakistan, Pakistan has been following rapid globalization and free market policies, neoliberal economics, particularly since 1990s, and the result is that we have new societal conditions in Pakistan. For example, we have market civilization with deregulation, and market civilization without standards. I'm aware of my time. I would not go into the details, but perhaps in question answer session, that Pakistan now has a market civilization, which basically means that even in a distant village, you can have the consumption habits which are leveled, which are similar. But our market civilization is without standards, or not much standards. We used to have a strong constituency for civilizational growth of Pakistan as a civilization, which now somehow is dissipating. Recently, Pakistan's leaders from different areas, like business, like politics, like media, they have coalesced into one coherent group, which is ruling. So Pakistan has grown a big time fun culture among the youth, and the dominant feeling in Pakistan is that of hopelessness based on the real or imagined normlessness in Pakistan. If you follow the social media or mainstream media, what you come across is that most of the Pakistanis think that Pakistan is in the grip of an increasing normlessness, which is basically creating what we call social anomie, that if a large number of people can do whatever they feel like, and you do not really bother about the means and ends distinction. If you can do whatever you feel like, everything goes to achieve your objectives, then that means we have a presence of social anomie in terms of loss of values, and we have institutional anomie. We don't trust our institutions. So in this context, at this moment, the wealth inequality and the kind of governance we have, the kind of institution that we have, it is hard to imagine Pakistan where prosperity and social solidarity can coexist. Now, as long as Pakistan does not achieve this ideal, which referring to Shah Waliullah, we are now between 1 and 2 basically. So we have to stabilize ourselves on Ittifaq number 3, where we have such a social development where prosperity and social solidarity can coexist. Then Pakistan should be able to play a role in promoting interstate peace. Right now, at least my personal fear is that this is a weak moment for Pakistan in its evolution. And if the next generations of the country are not aware of the dark side of market civilization and don't challenge it, we would become further weak. And we are living in one such neighborhood where the distinction between empire and civilization does not hold very good. So Pakistan can be a playground of the ambitions of the empires which prefer to call themselves civilizations. So to conclude, Pakistan, in terms of the scheme of things, and Shah Waliullah has to go a long way in developing those institutions which bring in that kind of social politics where we can say that Pakistan is a country which has social solidarity as a driving principle, and people have hope instead of institutional anomie. That strength would enable Pakistan to use the civilizational resources that it has coming from its history, coming from its religion, and then Pakistan can play a positive role and could be called a civilization or a successor to a proud civilization. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Safdar Sohail, for a very precise talk, and especially ending it on a positive note. That is very important nowadays, especially for the youngsters. And thank you for explaining what civilization is. And I think it's very important for us to be able to differentiate between civilizations and empires. And once we do that, things would be much clearer for us. Probably there'll be some questions later on the concept of morality and equality, because nowadays those who stood for morality and human rights, we see what they are doing when it comes to Gaza and Kashmir and all that. So thank you for a very learned discourse. Ladies and gentlemen, the next speaker is Brigadier Syed Nazir. And as the name suggests, Brigadier Said has had an illustrious career in the Pakistan Army, where he has served on various command and staff positions. He is also an alumni of the National Defense University of Islamabad, where he earned a master's in defense and security studies. He is a renowned analyst of geostrategy and focuses on regional and international security dimensions, covering conventional, non-conventional, and subconventional threats and warfare. Brigadier Said regularly appears in national and international mass media as a defense analyst focusing on the war of narratives. Currently, he is working with the Institute of Policy Studies as a senior associate on strategic affairs. His topic is Alternative Security Frameworks for a Peaceful World. Sir, you have the floor.
Thank you indeed. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My thanks to IPS and Khalid Rahman Saab, his team, the panelists, as well as to the viewers. Well, there is a saying that peace is just an interlude between the two wars. On this contest, I've got to present one are the constants of wars, and another is the variables of cost. So first, the constants, which have been displayed on the slide, they are too straight and simple to consider, but the last one is more interesting, that even the just wars are destructive in nature. So there is, war cannot be undestructive. And the second last, of course, nuclear deterrence prevails since its first use against Japan, and that's why UN is surviving. On the variables, let me come to that the future which has been shown on the slides, but the third point, natures of war and its scope, it will be always changing. And on the fourth, we have got beside the machines, the drones warfare, and that are changing the faces of war. And the next and the fifth is the nature of sanctions and its duration. That varies in its